The still is the master of unrest. To be restless is to lose one's self mastery. Lao Tzu. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Nishant, and welcome to another episode of the Nishant Garg Show. This show is about extracting information on mindfulness, personal development, and spirituality. My today's guest is Garrain Jones. Garrain dealt with homelessness for 2.5 years, living out of his car and feeling like he was drowning in misery, as well as being sent to prison for 2.5 years. Yet, going through both of those difficulties and more, he found a way to turn his life around. Garrain's story is a perfect example of how you can go through so many difficult things in life. He is now a serial entrepreneur who motivates and inspires thousands. The knowledge he gained while being shaped and molded sent him down the pathway to become a transformation coach. He is an advocate for living a healthy life, business coach, speaker, and author of the number one best selling book, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. Garrain Jones, welcome to the show.
Hey, brother.
I'm so
Thank
honored
you.
to have
Thank,
you.
thank you for having me on.
I'm so honored to have you on this platform. This is my dream come true. And I have known you for last 2 years. And man, this is my dream come true to have you speak about your life, about your struggle, and about your new book. And you took your new book from nowhere to number one best-selling author. That's
Yeah.
kudos to you. Congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
There are thousands of people, they know you, they know your life, but I'm sure there'll be some population they may not know who Garrain Jones is.
Yeah.
uh, I know that you were struggling in your life, you were homeless, you were living in your car in 2011. It's been 8.5 years that you have changed your life, changed lives of millions. So what happened? Can you please share your struggling time and how did you overcome that pain process?
I've always felt like I've been struggling since I was a little kid because I was never handed anything. So my mom, when I was a little kid, she would say things like, if I wanted a pair of shoes that was over $50, one time I wanted a pair of $150 Michael Jordan. She was like, well, when you can make your own money, you can buy whatever you want. And it was like, it was a struggle to learn how to even make my own money. But then I always figured out a way to get what I wanted because my mother never just gave me anything. And so I felt like my whole life was a struggle. My father was murdered when I was 12 years old. My mom had to play the role of the father and the mother and take care of me and my brother and just find a way to put food on the table, even though all of my clothes came from garage sales and secondhand stores. She just always figured out a way to make it happen. And anytime we didn't have something, I just remember my mom always figuring out a way. So I went through all this struggle. And then in 2011 at 3:43 in the morning, it was the lowest point of my life. My daughter pretty much disowned me. My girlfriend had just broken up with me. I was over $200,000 in debt. I was living in my car for 2.5 years. And it was just at a point in my life where I just pretty much gave up. And I said to myself, either I die or I do something about it. And it was that night at 3:43 in the morning, I just yelled out, I'm tired of fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be surrounded by nothing but positive people. I just want to inspire people. And I want to make a bunch of money, but I want the money to represent something that I passionately believe in. Just show me a sign. That sign ended up being a homeless man 1 week later while I was at the gas station with my last $2 who asked me for money. I said, you have more money than me. And he said, change your mindset, change your life. Those words stuck me in my tracks. And for the last 8.5 years, in areas of my life where I wasn't happy, I've taught myself how to do the opposite and change my mindset. And I've been able to attract the life I always wanted. And it was on the other side of everything I never wanted to do.
Awesome. So when you do things which is opposite in your life, basically you're changing your thinking. So after when you were living in your car, what was the first step you took after that?
It was, so I just want to make sure it's not necessarily doing the opposite, because if you say, I'm going to do the opposite, it's not really changing your thinking. What happened was, when you don't want to do something and it's a lot of resistance, you're like, I'm not doing this. I'm never going to do this. And then you change your mindset and do the opposite, and how difficult it is to do that. Then that's when you start entering into a realm that you have no idea what's going to come up next. So that's what happened. That's what took place for me.
Because we all have that blockage inside us, we have that resistance, and you have beautifully talked about that resistance and blockage in your book. Now there is this component called the rhythm of nature. In that component you have talked about we are blocked, we have money blockage, we have spiritual blockage. Can you please elaborate more on that blockage part, on the flow part?
So I often think about, if you see like a dam and the water just collects and collects and collects and collects and collects, when you see that dam, um, it's collecting everything. It's collecting fish, sticks, algae, cans, trash. It's collecting so many different things. But what happens when you crack it wide open? What happens when you break the dam open? Everything just flows through. Everything flows through, all the fish, all the whatever's behind that wall. And I feel like anytime there's a holdup in your life and you want something so bad, you want love, you want abundance, you want money, you want so many different things, I feel like the same thing happens in our lives, which is like a spiritual dam that's collecting all of your gifts, collecting all of the abundance, collecting all of the things that you want to attract to your life, collecting your soulmate, because there's something in your life that you won't let go of, or something in your life that you're allowing to block you from you know creating space. And I call that the spiritual dam, and it happens all the time. And I've had so many different instances in my life when I let go of something was instantly replaced.
Exactly. If
So
some
like letting go of a bad habit, letting go of resistance,
Yeah.
letting go of just, if I was dirty, letting go of the idea of being dirty and actually being clean. So it's those things.
letting go of old things, letting go of our old conditioning, our programming is going to take some time. And you have talked about forgiveness, letting go in your blogs, in your public speaking, everywhere. And I've seen you speaking about forgiving people in our life. When we are not forgiving others, we have this huge resistance in our body, in our mind and soul. So if somebody is having huge resistance, what advice would you give to them so that they can feel free and they are able to let go?
Everything on the other side of the resistance is the door to more. So I just get them say, everything that you're wanting that you're not getting is on the other side of what you're resisting. So it's not necessarily what you're resisting. It's the fact that you're resisting and it's taking up too much energy and power inside of you, that what you're holding on to is the same strength that's needed to sustain at the next level. And that's why you'll never get at the next level, because too much power is being used while holding on to something that's not serving you.
If we start forgiving others who have done something wrong in our life, is it going to help?
Well, it'll help you feel free, because forgiveness is freedom. Letting go of resentment is freedom. That is a form of freedom.
Yep.
And so when you don't let go, what you're doing is holding hate in your heart. And there's no possible way that you can get to an elevated sense of peace, love, joy with hate in your heart. Because hate, that's like weight. And if you have
Yep.
a hot air balloon, it doesn't leave the ground until you release the weight. Those bags on the side.
And forgiveness is a spiritual power. I can give a small example from my life. 3 years ago, when I forgave my dad, things transformed. I was so free. I was able to do many new things in my life. When I forgave my dad, he didn't do anything wrong. It just, I was building up that anger, resentment since I was a kid. And when I released that, things transformed.
Absolutely.
And in your book, you have this quote from your book is screaming in my head right now. On the other side of the fear, there is a door to more. And this quote is everywhere on your social media. Can you please elaborate more on this quote?
So if you're fearing something, I'm fearing, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. You can't see clearly through the eyes of fear. You can't see clearly through the eyes of pain. So when you let go of that pain, you're able to truly see with loving eyes. But you can't love through pain. You can't love through fear. You can love through love. Pain is in the way. Fear is in the way. So on the other side of that is the door to more.
And I remember this quote from Will Smith. Best things are always on the other side of the terror.
And that's the same thing.
Yeah. So whenever you get fear in your life, when you're trying to achieve something big or anything small, how do you navigate through that fear in your personal life?
I like to build up personal magnetism, personal power. And what I do is get myself in a state of mind where I'm constantly practicing faith. And when you do that over and over and over and over and over, you have confidence in your faith more than you have confidence in your fear. Most people are domesticated in fear, so that's why fear takes dominion over their decisions. That's why they can be swayed in the news media by things that fear them. Thing about it is when you can break through that and you can put more power and faith, you'll look at life through a completely different lens. And it goes right back to you cannot truly see clearly through the eyes of fear or pain.
We can always see through the eyes of love.
Yes.
And talking about fear, nowadays, and we are recording this on 19th March 2020, and these days we are having a lot of trauma, a lot of fear around us. We are going through coronavirus, and Garrain says Coco. So how
Yeah.
can we cultivate compassion? How can we cultivate freedom, inner peace, calmness in this turmoil situation? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, one, you got to really understand, I'm a big fan of words. So if I say coronavirus, it automatically connects me with every virus known to man, and it automatically makes me afraid. Even if the virus is harmless to younger people who are active.
Hmm.
So when I say Coco, it actually makes me want to understand it more. It makes it easier on my mind. And once it's easier on my mind, I can start to fill my mind with confidence and faith. So for me, they say, the people with the weakest immune system, that's why it's attacking all of the older people. However, age doesn't make you old. It's when you let life beat you down, when you hold on to resentment, when you don't forgive, when you don't do what you love, when you're in a job that you don't like and you stay there causing you to stress, when you're in a relationship that you don't want to be in and you stay there causing you to stress, all of that weighs your soul down and your spirit cannot hold that weight, and that weakens your immune system. So my deal is, well, how do we strengthen our immune system? Boom, get plenty of rest. Make sure you're being active. Make sure that you're eating healthy. You're drinking plenty of water. Make sure you're doing things that you love. Even if you're quarantined, you're in the house, but you're raising your vibration. You're raising your frequency. You're raising the serotonin, the boosting the serotonin in your body, which is the molecule that causes you to be happy. You're raising that and you're lowering your cortisol levels, which is your fear hormone. Your fear hormone causes stress. So everybody that's in a panic right now is actually raising their cortisol levels, which is the fear hormone, and weakening their weakening their
Immune system.
weakening their yeah weakening their I can't even think it. Yeah, weakening their immune system. If you fear, if you panic, that's weakening your immune system. If you're unhealthy, that's weakening your immune system. If you hold on to resentment, that's weakening your immune system. If you don't forgive people and you're holding on to hate, that's weakening your immune system. If you're always tired and you never get any sleep, that's weakening your immune system. If you're eating fatty foods, that's weakening your immune system.
Yes.
Interesting how my book touches on all the points that the CDC is asking humans to do globally in this world. Love yourself, love your neighbor, be healthy, be rested, be active.
And talking about love, so you have this amazing concept in your book, do what you love, and you have mentioned about journaling process. Can you elaborate on journaling process, how people can start on this journaling so that they can feel free, they don't have to live in fear and turmoil?
Well, the thing about it is the emotion of love it's the most powerful frequency in the world. So anything that you do where love is present, it actually cancels out all the other stuff. You just got to keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again. Well, here's the deal. There's things that you do as an adult, and then there's things that you do when you were a little kid, when your heart, when you were engaging your heart as much as possible. Because little kids, they typically flow from their heart. Adults typically flow from what society thinks, what your parents taught you, what school taught you, what college taught you, and all these inner voices that is like 1,000 people who have impacted you in your entire life, which means you're not operating from the truest essence of yourself. Well, when you were a little kid, you were operating more from the truest essence of yourself, which means more of your heart was being engaged and intact. So things that you loved as a child has more potency than things that you love as an adult that you took on later on in life. It just has more potency because it unlocks certain parts of your heart that unconsciously have been closed down.
Yeah.
So
How can we rediscover that inner child, because we have lost that inner child, and because people are programmed and conditioned, how can we rediscover that inner child to cultivate authentic life?
I would say when you do things that you loved to do when you were a little kid, it will cause your soul to remember who you really are. Everything is about remembering. All children are born into love. They're not born into hate. They're born into love. They forget themselves. So anything that you do, anything that you did as a child, guess what? You start remembering who you are. You start remembering and remembering and remembering and remembering who you are. And the more and more you do it, the more and more there's a there's an emotion that starts to take over your body. So if you love to dance and you haven't danced in 20 years, then you're missing out on something that's connected to something that you loved when you were younger. So the more and more you dance, you're like, oh, I just feel free. You want to do whatever makes you feel free.
Yeah. So can you give us some bullet points from your life that you loved doing in your childhood and you still do that?
I loved drawing. I loved singing. I loved dancing. I loved fashion. And this is from when I was 3, 4, 5
I've
years
seen you.
old. I loved pandas. And guess what? I do that all right now and I get paid for it. So I get paid for what I would do for free. And everything that I do, I incorporate all those things.
Yeah, and talking about Panda, your blog was listed in Forbes.com, the Panda Power Hour. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate on that Panda Power Hour? What is that?
Well, the panda is something that I love. So I just attached it to it. Power Hour is something that I created when, I started doing a triathlon, and it encompasses three different disciplines: swimming, biking, running. Well, I was training for a half Ironman, and that's a 1.5 mile swim into a 75-mile bike ride a 55-mile bike ride into a half marathon back to back to back. Well, I would start to train those three disciplines, and then all of a sudden it would cut into my whole day. And I'm a businessman and an entrepreneur. And I was like, man, I got to get up earlier. So I started getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and getting all this stuff done. And then I started journaling everything. And the more and more I was journaling and getting workouts done and putting my list on a piece of paper and knowing what I'm going to do the night before, it just gave me power before I went to sleep, knowing that my day was already done before it even got started. So I didn't have to use brain power thinking about what I was going to do. So I write down a list of a bunch of things that I'm going to do, whether I wake up, make my shakes, have my vitamins, calling, messaging people, messaging my customers, doing push-ups, doing some jumping jacks, dancing to my favorite song. I put like 30, 40 things on a list. Now, I would go to sleep knowing what I was going to do, but what I wanted to do is transmit a powerful frequency to my list. So I would look at a picture of my daughter, I would look at my favorite color, things around my nightstand, and then I would look at the list. Then I would look at my daughter. Then I would look at the list. Then I would look at my daughter. Then I would look at the list, and then the list would take on the same emotion that I felt of my daughter. Then I would go to sleep. When I went to sleep, my mind would go to work. When I went to wake up, and I look at the list, it gave me back before I went to sleep, which was the emotion of love. And my number one goal was to get as much done in 1 hour as I possibly could. Most people get 5 things done in a day. Well, if I got 30 things done in an hour, what do you think my momentum is going to be like?
That's going to be amazing. And our mind craves progress.
Absolutely.
So what's your sleep routine nowadays? How many hours do you sleep?
So it's different now because I have a wife. So it's just different. I used to go to sleep at 11:30, 12 o'clock. Now typically I go to sleep at 10:30 because I want to go to sleep. Me and my wife, we pray. We do some affirmations. I kiss her, she kisses me. We snuggle. We tell each other what we I just tell her some great things. I want her to go to sleep with, my words in her head, and then I go to sleep. I also have my list as well. It's just not as long, and I've incorporated things that's really connected to my heart. So, um, the my sleep routine is connected to the power hour. The only thing different now is I'm I'm with my daughter. Yeah, the only thing now is I'm with not my daughter, but I'm with my wife, and
Hmm.
then we go to sleep, and then we just make sure that we're engaging with each other. We make sure that we're both happy when we go
Yeah.
to sleep.
And when you go to bed by 10:30, so do you sleep 7 to 8 hours? So how many hours do you get in?
Um, so we typically go to sleep at 10:30. So around 7 hours, 7.5 hours.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking is I have done so much studies on sleep, and everybody is saying that 7 to 8 hours of sleep is mandatory. And we don't need sleep. Why we need sleep? If we are not sleeping, we are not giving our mind and body proper rest. So sleep is very important to be more productive. If somebody wants to achieve more, you got to sleep more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit more technical with it because I typically what I'll do what I'll do is when I go to sleep, my whole goal is to power up so that I can approach the day, um, so that I can approach the day as a fully charged Garrain and not off of yesterday's reserves. So it's all about powering myself up, just like you would charge a phone to full. I get full capacity typically around 7.5 hours of sleep so that I can go out and make an impact on the world.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you are just joining us, you are listening to this podcast with Garrain Jones. And what's your morning routine these days? I know it keeps changing.
It's the
Yeah.
power hour.
Yeah. So in that power hour, what do you do? What are your activities?
Um, my power hour, so it changes every day. I don't have a specific thing, but my main specific thing is prayer, affirmations, telling myself that I love myself, and giving myself full capacity before I give it to anyone else, before I touch any phone or anything. So it's not the same every day, but I just make sure that I'm charging myself up with love and affirmations. I am powerful. I am amazing. I am beautiful. I'm saying a prayer, praying for the strength to carry out this day. Um, and so I try not to load it with so much. I
Mhm.
just want to make sure that I get loving myself before any other human gets any of my energy.
Because human beings can have this internal negative chatter all the time, and affirmation can help navigating from negativity to positivity.
Absolutely.
So self talk, can you please elaborate more on the self talk part? Because I see a lot of people around me, they are having this negative self talk all the time. Why we need why we need affirmation?
Well, um, everything that's inside of your mind is everything that you've pretty much um, either heard or told yourself for a long time. Those are called open loops. And they will just keep going and going and going and going and going and going and going. Those things are like open apps on a phone. The more apps you have that are open, it slows the phone down. So what do? You got to close the apps.
Yes.
So you got to close the loop. The only way to close the loop is tell yourself a different story. And that's where affirmations come in. It's an opportunity for you to tell yourself it's a different story. So if you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm sick. Oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I'm stupid. Well, guess what? You have an open loop of, oh, I'm stupid. Well, in order for you to close that loop, you got to tell yourself different.
Exactly.
And you can say, I am educated, I am smart, boom. But when you say that for long enough and start believing it, you close the negative loop.
Exactly. And when we are talking about affirmation, self talk, and this chapter is very beautiful in the book Power of Positive Thinking. I got this book 2 years ago after I attended your seminar, and so far I have read it over 50 times. And in the Inc. magazine, you were mentioned that you have read this book called Power of Positive Thinking over 328 times. Is it real?
Oh, absolutely. It's about around 415 now between the paperback and audiobook, because I'm a different person every time I read the book. So I just keep reading it and getting results.
Yeah, and there is this great exercise in that book where we can imagine our mind as a container and releasing those anxieties and worries and insecurities and fill our mind with positive thinking. And actually, I sent this book to my mom back in India.
Yeah,
She has read it many times so far. She keeps saying, she knows it, and I keep asking, you know it, but are you practicing it?
right.
You know, and your this quote always screams in my head: energy flows where focus goes. The power of flow. You're in your public speaking, in your stages, you keep saying this all the time: energy flows where focus goes, energy flows where focus goes. Why? What is the correlation between focus and energy
Whatever
flow?
you focus on is what's going to keep showing up in your life.
Can you
And
give some
it's
examples
that
from your life?
simple. Huh?
Can you give some examples from your own life?
When I was a little kid, and I remember one time I didn't want to I wanted to stay home from school, and I was perfectly fine. And I just kept saying, Mom, I'm sick. Mom, I'm sick. Mom, I'm sick. Mom, I'm sick. I'm sick. Mom, I'm sick. Well, guess what? By the end of the day, I was sick. By the end of the day, I was sick. So what that taught me was that I had willed being sick into my life.
And along
When
the
I
same
want,
lines,
yeah, no, go ahead.
along the same lines, I used to say, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored all the time when I was kid.
Yep. And that's what happened. If you keep on focusing on it over and over and over and over and over, that's that's what's going to continuously show up in your life.
Yep. And coming back to your book, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. And this book came out in February 2020. And in just couple of
February
weeks,
17th, to be
February
exact.
17th, and in couple of weeks, this book became the number one best-selling book.
Actually, in 7 days.
7 days. Wow. Garrain, why did you read this book?
Well, the freaking the people asked for it. I've been posting on my social media every day for what? For the last 8.5, 9 years. When you hear the public say you should write a book over 1,000 times, maybe you should actually listen because you have something to share with somebody. So I wrote it because the people asked for it.
So, in writing that book, I would like to know about your struggle time. How did you navigate that struggle part? How did you able to come up with this book?
Wait, what do you mean?
That struggle part. What were the hurdles and obstacles in launching that book?
Well, the most difficult thing is I was trying to write the most perfect book that made sense for everybody. Like, I'm a believer in God, I'm a follower in Christ, but I didn't want to say anything about that because I didn't want to offend anybody. And then I was just, because I have friends that are Jewish, I have friends that are Muslims, I have friends that are that are that are so many different just religions and everything. And I was like, how can I write the best possible card? I mean, how can I write the best possible book for all of those people?
Yeah.
So so the difficult thing was trying to write the perfect book for everybody instead of just writing the book that I am supposed to write. And so what happened was, it took me 5 years and I kept getting blocked. I'm like, why am I blocked? This is not working. I don't understand what's happening. I'm trying to write this. And then on top of that, it's a book called Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. So every time I would change, every single time I would change, I would go back and I would look at the book and read the words. And I'm like, I don't even feel the same way that I did before, because I've grown from it. So I just kept growing, and the book was growing as I was growing as a person, because I didn't feel the same way. And I was just like, man, you know what? I'm just going to write this book. I'm not going to worry about what anybody else is going to think. There's niches for everyone. And I'm just going to write the book. And I'm going to allow God to flow through me. And however it turns out is however it turns out. Boom. It took me 2 days from start to finish to write that book.
Wow. And how do you feel now? Do you
I
think
feel absolutely amazing.
do you feel you could have done something better in any portion of the book?
No, I don't want to think about better, because you can do anything better than your best. Thing about it is, for where I was, that was the best possible project that I could write. And I have friends that say, "Oh, Garrain, you know so much more than this." And I told them, I said, if I was to write that book at the level of my education, I wouldn't reach the people that I want to reach, because the people that I want to reach have never actually picked up a personal development book before.
And
So I need to write.
who is that population? Who is that population you want to reach to from this
I
book?
mean, it's not a who. It's most people don't read books. They read magazines and
Yes.
gossip and watch TV and things like that. But I've got more people that was like, yo, I haven't read a book in 20 years, but this was so easy to read. And guess what? If it's easy to read, you can actually read it with your children. And now people are reading it with their children. So I'm tapping into our future.
This is easy to read, but there are so many practices in this book that will take time. And if you apply that, that can change your life. This is easy to read,
Absolutely.
but this is few hundred pages, but this is going to take a lot of time to really practice this. And after each chapter, you have mentioned all the practices. Okay, reach out to 10 people you want to forgive. Work on your health, write 3 practices on what do you want to improve in your life, So before picking up this book, what question should people ask themselves?
Before picking up this book,
what question should people ask themselves?
What's missing? My wife says it all the time. She calls it, what's in the gap? What's in the gap? What's missing? What's missing? There's something. If I don't have what I want, what is missing?
What if somebody doesn't have awareness?
Well, that's the whole purpose of reading the book, because the book is about awareness.
Because you cannot change what you are not aware of.
There's no possible way. And if you do change what you're not aware of, you won't know what happened.
We stay the same.
Yeah, but things can actually show up different, but you won't know how to articulate what just happened.
Yes. And I read this book, Awareness, from Anthony DeMello. And that's what he's talking about. You don't need techniques. You don't need mechanics. You just need awareness. If you have awareness, you can learn all the tools and techniques in no time. And Because we may not want to upgrade ourselves. And this is the main topic of your book, where you're talking about upgrading season. You have this
Upgrade season,
upgrade
absolutely.
season. You have this analogy about phone. We keep upgrading our phones from iPhone 7 to 10, any newer version. I'm still using iPhone 5s from last 8 years. We keep want to upgrade our material things, but we never want to upgrade our inner being, that is spiritual life. Can you
Well,
please
guess
elaborate?
what?
Yeah.
I feel like the universe is doing that right now.
Yeah,
I feel like
universe is doing that
I
right
feel
now.
like the universe is causing all humans to upgrade right now. So what's happening? People are tending to their health. People are focusing, they're being more cordial with one another. It's probably the first time in my life, in my 40 years of living, that our world is on pause and pretty much as everybody is together.
Yeah. And in
I
this,
know that there's a higher order. There's a beautiful lesson inside of this, and there's going to be some amazing things that's created from this space. Why? Because it's causing everybody to do things differently.
yeah. And in that topic of upgrade season, you have talked about house cleaning. And when I was reading that, I was blown away. House cleaning, this is so simple. I'll explain this a small story from my life. I bought a house last year. It's a big house just for myself, and I do not clean it every single day. And when I read this house cleaning, how we can elevate our energy, mental, physical, emotional, all the energies by cleaning our house, I was totally blown away. How important this is, just to clean your house.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
I would definitely take that point to my heart. Clean my house. If I cannot, I would hire somebody to clean that.
Yeah. Because why? It's just like your phone. When your phone says, it's time for an upgrade, what do people do? Do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. After a while, what happens? Something crazy happens to your phone. It's all connected. It's energy, brother.
Synergy. Can you please talk about the test of life from your book? We all are going through different tests in life. So why did you pick that segment in your book?
To just give people awareness, because a lot of times people say, why is this happening to me? Everything is just happening to me all at once. However, if you look when you were in school, guess what happened at the last of the year? You're taking 7 different subjects, 10 different subjects all at once to comprehend if you, to test you to see if you comprehend the year that you just went through. All the tests, all the pop quiz, every time you went to school to test you to see if you're ready for the next level. Life is exactly the same way.
And
So
yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to create an awareness, so that people could have something that they could relate to and understand that if they know that they're in a test, boom, I could study more.
And they don't have to do it alone. They can seek support.
Yes, absolutely. Well, um, that's where, what is it called? When you have tutors and you have mentors and you have people in your life that can pull out of you what you can't pull out of yourself, that's what that is there.
So whenever you struggle in any part of your life these days, how do you seek support?
I have a spiritual guide, a teacher that I speak with every single week for the last 8 years. I never want to get to the point where I feel like I know everything. It's like I know enough to know that I don't know anything, and I always want to keep learning.
That's profound. And this is coming from a place of gratitude, that you know what you know, but Maybe you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the second I feel like I know everything, everything just gets flipped, turned upside down. I'm like, oh man, I thought I knew this. Nope. What you know is a series of patterns. And as soon as the pattern changes that you're not aware of, boom, then you don't know. Well, guess what? Your whole life is surrounded by trillions of patterns. You have no clue that could potentially impact you every single day, every second of the day.
Yeah. And I've seen your blogs, your videos, where you always talk about gratitude. In fact, whenever you put gas in your car, you put a picture of that. And you keep saying it is a glue that holds our life together. But I want to ask you this. There could be some obstacles in attaining gratitude. How people can break through that obstacle?
What do you mean by that?
We all want to feel grateful. We all want to feel good, but something is blocking and there is an obstacle to cultivate gratitude.
Well, most people aren't taught gratitude, and they're not taught the feeling of how what that does inside of your soul. So it's something where you've got to fill up your own tank of gratitude. So I look at gratitude like this. Boom. There's a glass, and then you pour in the glass. Every time you're grateful, you pour water into a glass, like a little bit of water. Every time you're ungrateful, well, I didn't want it like this, so I didn't want that, and I'm just ungrateful. Whatever you poured in, you pour right back out. The objective is to completely fill that glass. And when you fill that glass and reach the tipping point, and then you pour another drop, it will overflow into the next container. That's what abundance does when you're pouring into your own cup, coming from gratitude, not ungratitude, not being ungrateful. Most people come from the lens of ungrateful, but they're not aware that they're pouring in and pouring out their entire lives. It's all about pouring into your own cup, filling that cup, and then allowing other people to experience from the overflow that you first give to yourself.
Exactly. And you have mentioned about becoming the person you want to attract. And you have mentioned John C. Maxwell in that book. I'm a huge fan of John C. Maxwell. So why did you choose or pick only John Maxwell?
Well, he's the person who said it.
Hmm.
He was the first person I ever heard say that. So that's why I chose that. It was him. You know, you can have 10 teachers teaching the same subject. However, they don't all have the same passing scores. It's how they relate, it's their energy, it's how you feel whenever they're sharing it with you. He was the first and only person I've ever heard that I respected say, you must, like, if you always do what you always done, you always, no, not that one, not that.
Becoming the person you want to attract.
Yeah, you must become the person you want to attract.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
actually, I heard that one from Gandhi.
huh.
The one that I heard from John C. Maxwell is successful people are willing to do the things that unsuccessful people won't do.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yes, be the change you want to see in the world. I got that from Gandhi.
Yeah. Can you can you please share a small story from your life becoming a person you want to attract? Because we all want something bigger, but we are not doing anything. We are, or maybe we are running behind the doing, but we are not being.
Got it. So I was in one of my business, my health and wellness business. I was really negative. I always compared myself. I was always looking for a slick way to get around things. I would talk about people behind their backs. And I was wondering why my business was horrible. I wasn't earning any money. Nobody wanted to be on my team. And then one day I heard somebody say, you must um, become the person you want to be the person you want to attract. And then I was like, I wouldn't even want to be on my own team. So then it had me to reflect on myself, to look at myself. And then I started changing all of those different personalities, those different characteristics of myself. I was always on time for things. I was treating people with respect. I was cheering people on, building them up. All of a sudden, I started attracting people that were acting just like I was acting when I shifted my attitude. And attitude reflects leadership.
Yep.
Yep.
Is it because of staying in line with the group? Because you have this beautiful chapter in your book where stay in line with the group, where you talk about mind, body, soul alignment.
Not necessarily. That's like a little bit too it's a little bit too technical for me. It was simply my ways of being and my character needed to change because I wouldn't want to be on my team.
Got it. So, talking about mind, body, soul alignment, and you have talked about in your book where you mentioned that this is making it as one. It's not separate. Mind is not separate. Body is not separate, and soul is not
It's
separate.
all connected.
They are connected. So, what practices do you have in your life, or I should say, your spiritual practices, to so that they stay connected?
Um, so a lot of things that I put inside of my a lot of things that I put inside of my power hour are connected to my mind, body, and soul. So when it comes to my soul, like how do I feed my soul? That's my affirmations. That's my prayer. That's the meditation. Body. That's my workout. That's doing some physical activity that causes me to sweat and increase the serotonin in my body and reduce the cortisol levels. My
Mhm.
mind, growing my mind, doing something to grow my mind, reading a book, learning one new thing. So
So,
those, I keep it
yeah,
really, really, really simple.
yeah. So, speaking about books, and we all know that you have read Power of Positive Thinking. Is there any other book that that has impacted you the most?
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Grow Rich with Peace of Mind by Napoleon Hill.
Mhm.
Yep.
So, when we are
The
raising,
Power. The
Mhm.
Power by Rhonda Byrnes.
Is there any other book that come to your mind now?
The ones that I really, really, really like hone in on are those.
And you keep going back and forth on that on those books.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of reading hundreds and thousands of books. I'm a big fan of reading a few books, hundreds and thousands of times so that I can master a book. I meet a lot of people who've read a lot of books, but they got a lot of things to memory, but their life doesn't look like the information that's stored in their brain. So that's why, Bruce Lee says, fear not the man who practices 1,000 kicks. Fear the man who practices one kick 1,000 times.
Yeah,
And for me,
yeah.
and for me, yeah. And for me, I'll read a book over and 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 over so that I can commit it to mastery.
So this book change your mindset, change your life. Maybe easy to read, but you got to read it many, many times to
Keep
really
reading
own it.
it over and over and over, and you get something new every time.
And I remember this. I asked you this question 2 years ago. How many books do you read? And you had the same answer that
Yeah.
you keep reading the same book over and over, over and over.
And I'll add a new book, but it's not a ton of books.
Yeah. So one of the questions that this is my personal question that I want to ask you, that what practices do you have in your day-to-day life to keep you calm, to keep you peaceful, apart from your religious practice, apart from reading Bible? Do you have any meditation, yoga, or anything that keeps you calm?
Being calm is a choice. So I do things, but there's no one specific thing that I do. It's, I heard this saying, I forgot who said it, but he said, real strength is not going to go hide in a cave and finding peace. Real strength is being amongst the chaos and choosing peace, which means peace and calmness is a choice.
It is a choice. And when we
Yeah,
come from a place of choice, we own the power.
absolutely. So it is a choice to be calm under any circumstance. And when you do it long enough, it becomes a part of you, not just something you're doing.
Yeah. Where do you see yourself in next? Where, let me rephrase my question. Where would you be, or who you would be in next couple of years? We have seen you, world have seen you. Garrain is inspired and motivated. Who would you be? I'm stressing on be.
Say that one more time.
Who would you be in next couple of years?
Who will I, and an excellent father to my two young children that me and my wife are currently in the process of creating. A best-selling author to another book that is a children's book and a book and a relationship book for me and my wife. A very powerful mogul in Los Angeles. That's someone that's earning $100 million a year. However, giving billions of dollars worth of value out into the planet. My Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life, my Change Your Mindset Youth Foundation is to another level and impacting inner city teens, in Los Angeles and in my home state of Texas. And I'm going to keep it there for right now.
That is beautiful. So before I end this conversation with you, can I make you a request? And my request
Yes.
is, I want you to close your eyes.
Okay.
And just imagine yourself in a big arena where thousands of people are listening to you, watching you, and and they are struggling in some areas of their life. So how would you motivate and inspire them in just 2 minutes? This is your ground. Get it?
Is that a question you're asking me?
Yeah. Yeah. How would you motivate them?
I actually won't motivate them. However, I'll be living my life in such a high level of freedom that they see themselves within me and they'll motivate themselves.
Awesome. Do you have any words of wisdom or closing thoughts?
Change your mindset, change your life.
Well, Garrain Jones, thank you so much for being on the show. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you are listening to this, change your mindset, change your life, and get this book right now. You can change your life. You can do what Garrain has done in his life. So thank you, Garrain Jones. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, man.
All right. Thank you for listening to this podcast with Garrain Jones. You can follow him on Instagram at Garrain.Jones, RRAIN.JONES. And his Facebook ID is www.facebook.com/the Garrain Jones Flow. His website is https://GarrainJones.com. If you have enjoyed listening to my podcast, please subscribe to the new podcast updates at my website, nishantgarg.me, and please provide your reviews on iTunes, which will really help me. So, thank you again.